Today, we're going to trace the absolutely incredible journey of international trade. It's a force that has literally built empires, connected entire cultures, and shaped the very world that we all live in.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? The answer is this amazing story that's been thousands of years in the making. It's a story of how humanity's endless quest for resources, for luxury, for just connection, completely transformed our planet. Okay, let's dive right in. So, our story starts way before the age of sail. We're not talking about massive cargo ships here. Nope. We're talking about hardy animals and just sheer human will, carving out the very first threads of global connection across some of the most unforgiving landscapes imaginable.
You gotta understand, for millennia, trade was the slow, dangerous, and incredibly expensive trickle of goods. But then, around 2000 BCE, the domestication of the camel. That was a complete game changer. Suddenly, desert nomads could control the flow of precious spices and silk. And later on, you had empires like the Mongols, who didn't just conquer territory, they actually secured these vital arteries of commerce.
And all over the world, these incredible, unique networks just started popping up. The incense route brought these prized aromatics all the way to the Roman Empire. The Silk Road, well, that was way more than just a path for stuff. Cities like Balkh became these massive hubs for spreading big ideas, like Buddhism. Meanwhile, in Africa, the Ghana Empire built its incredible wealth trading gold for salt. And it wasn't just in the Old World. In the Americas, the Maya were so advanced, they were even using cocoa beans as currency for their own long-distance trade.
And this quote, this gives you a hint at the just mind-boggling scale of the wealth involved. Okay, check out this story. In 1324, the West African emperor Mansa Musa went on his pilgrimage to Mecca. He traveled with his massive entourage and spent so much gold in the markets of Cairo that he single-handedly caused rampant inflation. I mean, he literally disrupted the local economy for years to come. That right there is the power of ancient trade.
And then, in the 15th century, everything, and I mean everything, changed. The story of trade just exploded from the land and out onto the high seas. This new era of maritime exploration didn't just find new routes, it effectively shrank the globe and created these vast, powerful new empires that were built entirely on sea power.
So driven by brand new technologies and just raw ambition, European powers figured out how to bypass the old, slow land routes. Vasco da Gama's voyage to India opened a direct path to the spice markets. The Dutch East India Company became, for all intents and purposes, the world's first massive multinational corporation. And for over 250 years, the Manila Galleons crossed the Pacific, trading American silver for Chinese silk, totally redrawing the map of global commerce.
And this brings us to probably the most profound consequence of all this new connection, the Columbian Exchange. It was this massive biological and cultural transfer. You had potatoes and tomatoes from the Americas completely revolutionizing European food, while coffee and sugar from the Old World transformed the landscapes and economies of the New. But, it wasn't just about food. Diseases were also exchanged, and the consequences of that were absolutely devastating.
Because we have to be clear, this new global connection came at a horrific and unimaginable cost. This number, 12 million, is the estimated number of captive Africans transported to the Americas in the transatlantic slave trade.
Okay, let's move forward now to the 19th century. This is where we see a new kind of revolution take hold, not just in goods, but in the ideas about how trade should even work. A really radical shift in thinking was starting to happen.
So, for centuries, the main idea was something called mercantilism. The thinking was basically that a nation's wealth was like a pie. There's only so much to go around, so your goal was to grab the biggest slice you could and then protect it with super high taxes on anything coming in. But in the 19th century, this new theory started to gain ground: free trade. Britain repealing its Corn Laws in 1846 was this huge landmark moment, and the Cobden-Chevalier Treaty that followed, well, that sparked a whole wave of similar agreements across Europe.
Right, so this is the crucial point, this big ideological shift. The goal was no longer for just one country to dominate and control trade routes for its own benefit. The new thinking was that by removing all the barriers and just letting goods flow freely, everyone could get richer.
Now, in the wake of two absolutely devastating world wars, global leaders were determined to use trade for more than just profit. They wanted to knit the world so closely together that another major conflict would become unthinkable. And this is what ushered in the hyper-connected world we live in now.
And to make this happen, they created new institutions. It all started with something called the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT.
which eventually became the World Trade Organization, the WTO, in 1995. The easiest way to think of it is as a referee for global commerce. It created a single set of rules for everybody and made sure trade disputes could be settled with negotiations, not with warships.
So this new framework led to an absolute explosion of regional free trade agreements. You've probably heard of some of them, right? Like the European Union, which basically acts like one giant market, or the USMCA agreement here in North America. These blocks, like the absolutely massive RCEP in Asia, are all designed to make it way easier for member countries to trade with each other, letting goods, services, and money just flow with this unprecedented freedom.
But you know, maybe the most important innovation of this whole era was deceptively simple: the standardized shipping container. Seriously. Through a series of international agreements back in the 60s, the world agreed on the exact size, the markings, the corner fittings for these boxes. And this simple act of standardization, making every box the same, made moving goods by ship, rail, and truck radically cheaper and more efficient than ever before.
Now, this new system is incredibly powerful, but it's also incredibly fragile. The 2008 financial crisis gave us all a pretty stark reminder of just how interconnected we really are. I mean, look at this chart. A relatively small 1% drop in the world's economic output caused a catastrophic 10% collapse in international trade. It just goes to show you, when one part of the system falters, the shockwaves are felt absolutely everywhere.
From the very first camel caravans carrying spices across the desert, to today's fully automated ports moving millions of containers a year, the story of trade is really the story of us.